I'm Cynthia Rivera. I'm 73 years old. My biggest regret isn't something I bought. It's everything I didn't. You see, I saved so obsessively for someday that I let the best years of my life pass in grayscale. I worked as a mechanic for over 40 years, raised 4 kids with my husband David, and I've got 11 grandkids. I'm sitting here in my living room in Springdale, looking at a brand new, top-of-the-line fishing rod I just bought for myself. And for the first time, I felt sad about it. This expensive rod made me realize what I'd denied myself for decades. I don't want you to make the same mistake. Let me tell you what happened. It started in my mid-40s. The kids were mostly teens. The mortgage on our South Bend house felt like an anchor. And retirement? That was a terrifying cliff edge. David and I turned frugality into a competitive sport. With my mechanic's mind for fixing problems and saving parts, I was the champion. Every single dollar had a future job assigned to it. I was proud of that. That pride felt like strength. But it started to dictate our lives in ways I didn't see at the time. I remember my 45th birthday vividly. David, always the dreamer, suggested a weekend trip to Lake Michigan, just the two of us. My mind instantly became a calculator. I added up the gas, a cheap motel, eating out. "That's a new transmission for the van," I told him. "Or half a semester of books for Michael." We stayed home. I made meatloaf. David's smile faded, but I felt victorious. I'd saved us money. That victory was hollow, but I didn't know it yet. The cost was about to become more personal. My daughter Sarah had the lead in her college play, 5 hours away. She was so excited. That same weekend, the garage offered overtime. I took the overtime. "The money's better now, honey," I told her on the phone. "I'll see the next one." Her quiet, "Okay, Mom," haunts me. There was no next one. That was her final performance. It hurt. I buried that hurt under more work, more saving. David had his own version of this story, playing out quietly in his workshop. He loved woodworking. For years, he saved every spare penny for a beautiful, professional-grade lathe. He denied himself smaller things, a better vise, comfortable new clamps, good lighting, that would have made his hobby a daily joy. He worked in mild frustration for a decade, waiting for the one big thing, while denying himself 100 small pleasures. We were two sides of the same coin, hoarding for a perfect future. Life, of course, is never perfect. The kids left. The mortgage was paid. The savings account numbers grew, a testament to our discipline. We'd scaled the cliff. But a strange thing happened. We were too tired to enjoy the view. Our routines were set in concrete: work, save, repeat. The idea of spending felt foreign, almost dangerous. We were rich in security, poor in spontaneity. I was confused by that feeling. Retirement finally came. We had time and money, but we'd forgotten how to use them together. 6 months ago, we finally took that trip to Lake Michigan. We had the nice rental cabin. We had the time. I was struggling to bait my hook, my fingers stiff with arthritis, fumbling with my old basic rod. David was sighing as he set up his folding chair, his back aching. We were quiet, just looking at the beautiful, calm water. In that quiet, I saw it.
The truth was sitting right beside me in David's tired smile.
We had saved the money, but we'd spent the energy. The vitality needed to truly relish this moment, to hike the dunes, to cast a line with ease, to feel that carefree joy. That window was closing. Our savings account had written a check, but our bodies couldn't fully cash it. The security we'd built felt like an empty house. I was sad. That moment on the lake changed everything. It wasn't a loud crisis, but a quiet, devastating clarity. Driving home, it all came together like pieces of a quilt I'd been sewing blindly. The missed birthday trip, Sarah's play, David's workshop, 100 small no's to movies, dinners, new tools for my own quilting. I saw the pattern. A life lived in grayscale, saving all the color for a finale we were too weary to stage. I was grieving. That grief had to go somewhere. It couldn't just be an ending. I had to find a new way forward, starting with that fishing rod. What I understand now is that real security isn't just a number. It's the confidence to spend some of it to make your present life richer. Time is the one currency you can't earn back. You must calculate for the future, but you have to budget for joy now. That's not frivolous. It's essential maintenance for your soul. This isn't about reckless spending. It's about a fundamental shift in balance. The concert ticket, the better fishing rod, the weekend trip. These are investments that pay dividends in memories and vitality. They keep you connected to your family and to yourself. Don't just save for your 70s. Invest in your 40s and 50s so you arrive at your 70s with a life already fully lived, with stories in your heart, not just receipts in a drawer. I feel urgent about this, and if you're listening to this thinking it's too late for you, it's not. It starts with one small yes. So here I am, Cynthia Rivera, 73. I bought the rod. David's ordering new clamps for his shop. We're planning a trip to see our 11 grandkids, not just at holidays. My advice? Look at your budget this week. Find one line item for future security and move just a little of it to present joy. Make the call. Buy the ticket. Say yes. Don't let your life become a museum of careful plans. Go live it while you still can. So I bought the rod. I took it out of the box right there in the living room, and David came in from his workshop, wiping his hands on a rag. He saw it leaning against the couch. He didn't say anything at first. He just walked over and picked it up, testing the weight of it in his hands, running his thumb over the smooth cork handle. "This is a serious piece of equipment, Sin," he finally said. His voice was quiet. "I know," I said. And then I told him. I told him about the sadness, about the quiet moment on the lake, about seeing our whole life of no laid out like a quilt of missed chances. He listened, just nodding, still holding that rod. When I was done, he set it down carefully and sat next to me on the couch. He took my hand, his own hand still rough from wood, and said, "I've been thinking the same thing." You see, David's a quiet man. He shows his love in fixes around the house and in the careful toys he makes for the grandkids. He doesn't talk about his feelings much. But that day, he did. He told me about the lathe. He finally bought that beautiful professional lathe 5 years ago when he retired. He had it all set up in the workshop, shiny and perfect. "And you know what?" he said. "The first time I turned it on, I felt nothing, just tired. All those years of saving for it, dreaming of it, and when I finally got it, the joy had gone out of the process. My back hurt too much to stand at it for long. My hands weren't as steady. I'd waited for the perfect tool, and I'd missed all the years of imperfect fun I could have had with better clamps and a decent light. Hearing him say that, it was like a door opened. We started talking about all of it, not just the big things, but the small, daily denials. I remembered how, for years, I'd wanted a proper quilting frame, one that would hold a queen-size quilt without me crawling around on the floor, pinning and repinning. I'd make do with the small, rickety one, telling myself the money was for the kids' college, then for retirement, then for a rainy day. I'd saved the money, but I'd sacrificed the ease, the pure physical pleasure of my hobby. I'd turned my joy into another chore. And the kids. God, the kids. After Sarah's play, something shifted. She never said she was mad, but she stopped telling me about her performances. She'd tell David, and he'd tell me later. I'd created a distance with my practicality, and I didn't know how to bridge it. Michael, our oldest, he asked us once to go to a Cubs game with him and his boys. It was a 5-hour drive to Chicago. Tickets were pricey, and it meant a hotel. I hesitated. I started doing the math in my head out loud. Michael just shook his head and said, "Forget it, Mom. It was just an idea." He took his sons without us. I saw the pictures later. Their faces were painted. They were eating giant pretzels. They were leaning over the railing. My grandson had his little glove out, hoping for a foul ball. We weren't in any of those pictures. That's the thing about regret. It's not one loud explosion. It's a slow leak. It's the silence in the car after you've said no. It's the photo album you're not in. It's your husband's sigh in a workshop that finally has the perfect tool, but not the spirit to use it. After our talk, David and I made a decision. It wasn't a grand plan. It was a small, shaky start. We drove to the hardware store that same afternoon, not for anything we needed, but for something he wanted. He walked right past the bargain bin and picked out the best, heaviest duty bar clamps they had, the kind he'd looked at for 20 years. He got a new LED shop light too, one that mimics daylight. He didn't even look at the price tag. When he put them on the counter, his hand was trembling a little. It was an act of rebellion against our own old rules. I drove us to the fabric store next. I walked in, and I didn't go straight to the clearance rack. I went to the furniture section, and I bought a full-size adjustable quilting frame. It was on sale, but even if it hadn't been, I would have bought it. Loading it into the van, I felt a weird mix of guilt and giddiness. It was like I was getting away with something. That night, we didn't talk about our retirement fund or the electric bill. We set up my new frame in the spare room. David assembled it, his new clamps holding pieces steady as he tightened bolts. Under that bright new light, we worked together. It was just a piece of furniture, but it felt like we were building a new agreement, a truce with our own lives. Later, lying in bed, the anxiety crept back in. That old familiar voice in my head started whispering. That was irresponsible. What if the car breaks down? What if you need that money for medical bills? I stared at the ceiling. But then I thought about Sarah's voice on the phone. I thought about David's empty lathe. And for the first time, I talked back to that voice. I said, What if we're already broken from missing our own lives? The medical bills will come or they won't, but I can't get those years back. I can't unhear that disappointed, "Okay, Mom." The security we'd built was a fortress, but we'd been starving inside it. We were so afraid of running out of money that we'd run out of time instead. The security we'd built was a fortress, but we'd been starving inside it. We were so afraid of running out of money that we'd run out of time instead. And then, a few weeks after we bought the rod and the clamps, Sarah came to visit. She brought her two youngest with her. We were sitting at the kitchen table, the kids playing in the living room, and we were just talking. The conversation turned to the past, as it does. She was telling a story about her twins' last school play, how chaotic it was backstage, and she laughed. Then she got quiet for a second. She looked at me and she said, "You know, Mom, I never told you this, but when you missed my last play in college, I cried for an hour after we hung up." She said it so simply. No anger, just a fact. It felt like a punch to my chest. I couldn't breathe for a second. I just stared at her. "I was so proud of that part," she continued, stirring her coffee. "I worked so hard, and I really wanted you to see me, to see what I could do. When you said you had to work, I understood. I really did. You and Dad were always working so hard for us. But that night, after the curtain call, all my friends' parents were backstage with flowers. Mine weren't there. I told myself it didn't matter, but it did. I didn't know what to say. "Sarah, I'm so sorry." It sounded so small, so useless. "I know you are," she said, and she reached over and patted my hand. "It's okay. It was a long time ago." But it wasn't okay. Her kindness, her understanding, it was worse than if she'd been angry. Anger I could have defended against. This just laid me bare. I had chosen a transmission, a stack of bills, over my daughter's shining moment. I had quantified her joy and found it less valuable than overtime pay. I sat there at my own kitchen table, and I felt like the most foolish woman who ever lived. I'd been so proud of providing, of being practical, of being strong. And in my strength, I'd been cruel. After she left, I went into the spare room. My new quilting frame was set up, a half-finished quilt stretched across it, a vibrant pattern of blues and greens, like Lake Michigan. I looked at my hands, at the knuckles swollen from arthritis, from decades of gripping wrenches. I thought about all the things these hands had done. They'd rebuilt engines. They'd changed 1,000 tires. They'd pinched pennies until Lincoln screamed. They'd pushed away a weekend trip, a play ticket, a better tool. What had they held? What had they grasped that truly mattered? They'd held my children when they were small. They'd held David's hand. They'd baited hooks and pieced quilts. But so much of the holding was tinged with worry, with the next task, the next bill, the next responsible thing. I thought about David in his workshop. I went out there. He was at his beautiful, expensive lathe. He wasn't using it. He was sanding a small wooden truck for our youngest grandson, using a simple hand block. The new, bright light shone down on his work. His new clamps were holding a glue-up on the bench. He was working slowly, carefully. He looked up and saw my face. "What's wrong, Sin?" I told him what Sarah said. My voice cracked. I didn't cry, but I felt hollowed out. He put down the sanding block. He didn't come over. He just stood there, leaning against his workbench. "I know," he said softly. "Michael told me once about that Cubs game. He said, 'I just wanted to go to a ball game with my dad, you know? Not as a kid, as men. And I wanted Mom there, too.' He said it felt like we were always waiting for a better, cheaper version of life to come along." I had to sit down on his old stool. The weight of it was so heavy. It wasn't one thing. It was 1,000 small things, a lifetime of small things. We had given our children security, a paid-for house, college educations. We had given them the lesson of hard work. And in return, we had taught them, without meaning to, that joy was always secondary, that celebration could be deferred indefinitely, that their milestones were less important than our balance sheet. We had been so afraid of being a burden that we forgot to be a presence. That was the breaking point. Not a dramatic scene, just a quiet afternoon in a workshop with the smell of sawdust and glue, hearing the truth from my husband's mouth. Our children had learned our fear. They'd inherited our caution. And in that moment, I saw the real cost. It wasn't just the trips not taken, or the plays not seen. It was the love that had been expressed as sacrifice instead of participation. It was the family culture we'd built around later, and we can't, and it's not practical. I looked at David, really looked at him. His hair was completely white. His shoulders, once so broad from carrying sheetrock and lumber, were starting to stoop. We were here. We were in the later we'd saved for, and the view was cluttered with all the no's we'd said. "What do we do now?" I asked him. My voice was small. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "We start saying yes, even if it's scary, even if our old bones complain. We say yes to the ball game. We say yes to the visit in the middle of the week. We use the good china on a Tuesday." He picked up the little wooden truck. "And we finish this, and we drive it over to Ben's house tomorrow, just because it's Tuesday." It broke me, that simple answer, because it was so obvious, and it was 30 years too late. And also because it wasn't too late at all. We still had Tuesdays. I went back inside. I didn't go to my quilting. I picked up the phone. I called Michael. He answered, sounding a little busy, the kids yelling in the background. "Michael," I said, "it's Mom." "Hey, everything okay?" "Yes, everything's okay. I was just calling to ask when the Cubs are playing at home next. Your dad and I would like to take you and the boys. All of us. We'll get the tickets. We'll get a hotel. The whole thing." There was silence on the other end. Then he said, "Mom, are you serious?" "Dead serious." He laughed, a surprised, happy sound. "Okay, yeah. Let me look it up. I'll call you right back." He called back 10 minutes later. We picked a game in July. I wrote it on the calendar in big red letters. I didn't calculate the cost. I just wrote it down. And for the first time in maybe 40 years, spending money felt like an act of love, not an act of fear. It was a start. It was a very small, shaky start. But you have to start somewhere. It was a start. It was a very small, shaky start. But you have to start somewhere. And that's what I've been doing ever since. I've been starting. Here's what I learned, sitting here at 73, looking back at the map of my life and seeing all the roads I didn't take. Security isn't a fortress you build to keep the world out. It's a pair of good boots that lets you walk through it. For decades, David and I were so busy laying bricks for the fortress that we forgot to put on the boots and go for a walk. We confused survival with living. We thought if we had enough for tomorrow, we'd earned the right to a bleak today. We were wrong. I was wrong. I thought my strength was in my denial, my ability to say no to a trip, to a play, to a better tool. But real strength is in the wise, courageous yes. The yes that understands money is a tool for living, not the point of life itself. The yes that looks at your daughter's hopeful face and says, "I'll be there," before your brain can calculate the gas mileage. I learned that the hard way, from a quiet, "Okay, Mom," that echoed for 30 years. From a sigh my husband didn't know he made while looking at a beautiful lake. What I should have done was budget for joy. Literally. I'm a mechanic. I understand maintenance. You don't run a car for 100,000 miles without changing the oil, without ever giving it a tune-up, and expect it to run perfectly when you finally decide to take it on the dream road trip. You'll be broken down on the side of the highway. A life is the same. You can't run yourself on fumes, on deferred dreams and constant sacrifice for decades and expect to arrive at retirement vibrant and ready. You'll be broken down too, just like we were on that lakeshore. You have to do the maintenance along the way. The oil change is the weekend trip. The tune-up is the concert. The new set of tires is the fishing rod that feels good in your hands. These aren't luxuries. They're essential parts. They keep the engine of your spirit running. So my advice to you, especially if you're in your 40s or 50s, staring at that cliff of responsibility like I was, is this. Please, audit your life like you audit your finances. Look at the columns. You have a column for mortgage, for utilities, for groceries, for savings. Do you have a column for joy, for connection? If you don't, create it today and fund it. Even if it's just $20 a week. That $20 is for the ice cream cone with your kid when you pass the stand, not just drive by. It's for the paperback book you want, not just the library copy with the waiting list. It's for the flowers on the table for no reason. This isn't about being reckless. It's about being intentional. Be as intentional about your happiness as you are about your 401k. Because what good is the portfolio if the life it was meant to fund has already passed you by? I know it feels scary. That voice in your head, the one that sounds just like mine did, will scream about emergencies and future unknowns. Listen to it, respect it, but don't let it drive the car. Talk back. Say, the biggest emergency is a life half lived. The greatest unknown is whether I'll be healthy enough to enjoy the money I'm hoarding. Invest in experiences while your back doesn't ache from a folding chair. Invest in memories while your kids still want you to come to the game. Invest in the tools of your hobbies while your hands are still steady enough to use them with pleasure. That investment pays a daily dividend in vitality. It compounds in laughter and stories and the feeling of being truly, presently alive. You still have time. David and I, we're starting in our 70s. We're saying yes with creaky bones and careful planning, but we're saying it. We're going to that Cubs game with Michael and his boys this July. I can already hear the crowd,
taste the overpriced hot dog, feel my grandson tugging on my sleeve to see the mascot. Sarah's helping me plan a big family fishing weekend here at Lake Michigan for next summer. All 4 kids, all 11 grandkids. It will be chaotic and expensive and absolutely perfect. David's in his workshop right now, under that good light, making presents for no occasion. I'm finishing this lake-colored quilt on my new frame. We're not just waiting for the holidays anymore. We're making ordinary Tuesdays matter.
This channel is full of stories like mine. People who've lived a little longer, learned a few things the hard way, and want to pass it on, so maybe you don't have to. If this story, my story of the fishing rod and the missed play and the quiet regret, meant something to you, I'd be honored if you'd subscribe and turn on those notifications. There are more voices here, more lessons learned from lives fully and sometimes messily lived. And I'd really like to hear from you. Leave me a comment down below. Tell me, what's one thing you've been saying no to that your heart is whispering yes about? Is it a trip? A class? A visit? Maybe just a better pair of walking shoes? Sharing it makes it real. If this hit home, hit that like button. It lets me know this conversation matters. And if you know someone, a friend, a spouse, a parent, who is living in that grayscale world of perpetual later, share this with them. Sometimes it takes hearing it from a stranger to give us permission to change. Maybe you have a story of your own, a lesson life taught you that could help someone else find their way. There's a form in the description where you can tell us about it. Your voice might be the one that changes everything for someone watching. A book that helped me frame some of this thinking is called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying by Bronnie Ware. She worked in palliative care and heard the same things over and over. The number 1 regret? I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. I've linked it below if you're interested. So here's my final thought from Cynthia Rivera, retired mechanic, quilter, and a woman who is learning to fish all over again. Don't just save for someday. Live for today. Budget for joy. Your future self will be grateful you arrived not just with a full bank account, but with a full heart. The water is beautiful. Don't wait until your hands are too stiff to hold the rod. Cast your line now.